welcome back to another episode here on Cap Tech.
What do you think of that? Curious. Day one of the journey was not very eventful, but what do you expect with 3,000 miles in front of you by car alone and another 1,000 by train? However, we were able to eat at a vegan brewery in Rockford, named Pig Mines. That's the only discernible highlight from day one. On to day two. Day two was spent driving through Minnesota, where they have even more cars than lakes. Some lousy traffic, but a great little steakhouse called the Backroad Steakhouse. Eventually we wound up at a shady casino hotel in Fargo and did not get to see the wood chipper, but then again, the movie that the wood chipper's known for wasn't even filmed in Fargo. Day three was Fargo to Winnipeg. Not a thriller, but we got to stay at another seedy hotel somewhere north of Winnipeg, and right before that got to stop at the Trans-Canada Brewery for pizza with homemade potato chips on top of it, which sounds gross, but wasn't. The other highlight was driving on gravel roads right after entering Canada and wondering if we were going to be on gravel roads the whole time. Car sick, yeah. On day four, we had a little misadventure. In addition to our great adventure, our train was originally going to leave from Thompson to Churchill, and due to a railroad derailment on a freight train, the train was still running but no longer able to stop in Thompson. So our train ride got a little longer, and we boarded in Wabodin and stayed at a great lodge near there that I'll picture here. On this day, I also learned that Illinois is 96% privately owned land, and Manitoba is approximately 10% privately owned land. There's a lot of undeveloped land that you're not used to seeing, at least from my part of America.
I don't think anything that will touch me.
Are you still pooping?
It was... Oh, man. There was a sign. Yeah, that's all fun.
Hi, guys. Hi, guys.
The Silver Rat.
And it's the best place in the world.
Look at that. Nice.
Get some crab or something.
Let me see if I can see it on the map. Beautiful.
All right, everybody say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hey. Hey, babe. Hey.
Hello.
This is like from Lake.
Pretty neat, huh? Pretty neat.
I would want to canoe that. No, right. My goodness.
You guys want a family photo?
Day five was the train ride from Wabodin to Churchill. Rather long, but a blast through the boreal forest. How do you like the train, Akiri? How do you like it? Oh, you love it. You love it.
Say hey, Kiri.
Say something genius, Austin, while I got you on the camera.
Something genius.
1 million plus a trillion equals a trillion million.
Well, thank you. Look at that, Austin. That's cool.
Yeah, look.
You are not camera shy. How do you like your first train trip? Tell me more about it.
Tell us all about it.
What are you doing? How do you like the train?
Little green.
That was definitely an interesting meeting.
We arrived in Churchill, Manitoba, a small town in northern Manitoba, Canada, on the west shore of the Hudson Bay. Coral was there to greet us, the owner of the Churchill Hotel. Her husband, John, was nice enough to get us into our room early, so we quickly showered up and took off to the Lazy Bear Cafe, where Austin had to purchase her second stuffy of the trip. And they always sprinkle a cinnamon animal print, a bear print, in your coffee, which is quite delectable. Anyway, after eating a scrumptious breakfast, lunch, brunch, we headed out to the Hudson Bay. And we saw several murals painted all over town. And statues of a polar bear and several wolves. We waited in Hudson Bay, which was approximately 54 degrees that day, and what is politically known as Nunavut, which is Canada's largest territory. Not only is Churchill known as the polar bear capital of the world, but it's also the beluga whale capital of the world. And in the summer, over 3,000 belugas swim right into the Churchill River because it's warm and they have their babies. So anyway, while we were waiting in the Hudson Bay, we got to see a ton of beluga whales. The next day, we went on a tour led by our guide Coral, who is also the owner of the Churchill Hotel that we stayed at. Coral's a local of Churchill. She's resided there for the past 25 years, so like all of her adult life. Her husband is a Churchillian, so he's actually been there his whole life, obviously. When we got on the bus, it didn't take long and we were discovering different kinds of fauna and whatnot. She let us get off to take some pictures. We continued our tour and saw Miss Piggy, which was a plane wreck. In 1979, a Lam Air C-46F crashed after takeoff. due to it being overloaded, and it attempted to make it back to the airport there at Churchill, but it wasn't able to quite get there. But all the crew survived, and the aircraft is mostly intact. It was known as Miss Piggy because the story goes that it was carrying a bunch of snack-type foods. Next, we visited the polar bear holding facility, or otherwise known as polar bear jail. When the polar bears misbehave or get too close to the town more than once, they're seen as a threat. They put them in this holding facility. When we were there, there was actually a female and her cub that were being held there. We did not get to see them. Churchill is one of the best places in the world to see polar bears because it lies within a natural habitat. In the winter months, the bears are feasting on sails in the ice of the Hudson Bay, and then in the summer, they make their way to land. You can usually see them walking along the rocky shore. As the temperatures start to drop then in the fall, they move their way back, and they're waiting to begin their winter feast because they can go like 8 months without eating. It's kind of crazy. When we were out on our tour after leaving the polar bear holding facility, we actually witnessed a mama bear and her cub walking along the shoreline, and the cub was jumping in the Hudson Bay, going for a little dip. It was adorable. It brought tears to all of our eyes.
Especially mine.
Yeah, it was pretty epic thing to see. It was pretty awesome.
You see those bears?
How pretty.
Look at the cow.
It's the baby.
They'll also look a little yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they could have been laying in the kelp.
They're there.
She's calling, but no, they're not born a darker color, not like the ones that they
Goodness.
Next on our tour, we went to the Churchill Northern Studies Center and checked out Ithaca. The famous shipwreck is just off the coast. The ship's rudder was damaged in 80-mile-per-hour winds when the anchors failed and she ran ground on September 14th, 1960. It was only 4 days after she set sail. It came to rest on that rocky bed, and that's where she sits today. All 37 men aboard were rescued. Nobody lost their lives, and nobody was greatly injured or anything. There's been speculation that Ithaca was insurance fraud because they were warned not to go out when the winds and sea was so vicious, and they went ahead and did it anyway. Insurance company did not pay out.
All right, now that we've got you in the center, you can feel free to go take a less than symmetrical picture. You're gonna ride it. Wow. Well, I guess you're right. You did have a better picture idea. I stand corrected, my dear. How do you like Churchill so far, little A?
I love it.
All right, let's go.
Like polar bears like Carson.
Yup.
After that, we went to the town center complex. It's really, really nice. Indoors, they have all kinds of things to do. We rented the pool out for an hour, and they have a slide, and the pool's heated. It's very nice. We also went bowling. We rented out their bowling alley, which were like these little mini balls that they used. Anyway, kind of different bowling than what we're used to, but it was fun nonetheless.
The next day, it was time to get back on the train, but not before seeing dog sledding, more whales, more bears, and more murals. Still, the northern lights would elude us.
There we go. Okay, stand up in the back if you like. If anybody can't see you, you can all take turns standing.
Austin, tell us about this window.
In 1847, an English explorer lost his life on an Arctic
Expedition.
for the Northwest Passage as a memorial to her husband and to the 40 groups who took part in his search for him. Lady Franklin gave him this window to set Johnson's work factory. In 1967, it was airlifted by Pan American Airways to Churchill and placed in the
St. Paul's.
St. Paul.
Very good, Austin.
Thank you.
Yep, that's the reason the tracks here were shut.
Wow.
That is a derailed train.
OMG.
Holy cow.
Wow.
These are going nice and slow.
Did like the train fall off the track?
Yeah, that's what derailment implies, yeah.
Oh,
It was not a passenger train, it was a freight train.
good.
The following day, we finally got back off the rails and onto the roads, and went from Wabowden down to Selkirk, Manitoba, a major leg on our return home. Along the way, we stopped at one of the wonders of Manitoba, Little Limestone Lake. Here we have Little Limestone Lake. Okay, go ahead. Hello. Get by the water, maybe, where we could see the water in the background, honey. Little Limestone Lake is Manitoba's color-changing lake. It's the world's largest example of a marl lake. which is a calcium carbonate-rich lake. When it's warm out, the Murray forms into calcite and separates from the water, which creates crystals and leads to the turquoise hue in the water, like you find in the Caribbean. As it cools, though, the calcite dissolves, which decreases the Marl level and turns the water crystal clear. Throughout the year, the lake will change colors, and hence the view depends on the time of year. It's a beautiful place. All right, what do you think of this place, Austin?
I really like it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it is. Looks like the Caribbean.
And we should put on our sunflower stuff and go out there.
It makes our Mathiasen patch look rather small.
Yeah, it does. Are you getting a video?
Yeah. I only had to pass it about 4 times before I finally knew it was coming.
Yeah, pretty.
As the vacation started to near its end, we went and took a day off the traveling and hung out in Gimli, a Icelandic settlement on Lake Winnipeg. Went to the beach. They had a little fair going for Icelandic festival. It's just a great time. A little bit of history about Gimli. It's known for an incident called the Gimli Glider Incident, in which Air Canada Flight 143, commonly known as the Gimli Glider, a Canadian scheduled domestic flight between Montreal and Edmonton, ran out of fuel on July 23rd, 1983, at an altitude of 41,000 feet, midway through the flight. The flight crew successfully then glided the Boeing 767 to an emergency landing in Gimli. We closed the day at a Boston Pizza and had a spicy pierogi style pizza for dinner. It was wonderful. That's fine. If Canada wants to name a chain Boston Pizza, that's up to them. It's so good, I don't care what you call it. Anyway, that's what closed out our last full day in Canada. Then, on the penultimate day of our vacation, we drove from the Selkirk-Gimli area of Manitoba down to Superior, Wisconsin, just south of the border from Duluth. Side note here, Superior, Wisconsin was the last port of call for the Edmund Fitzgerald, which sank on Lake Superior, and was memorialized in a song by Canadian Gordon Lightfoot. In Superior, we were able to swim in the Great Lake, Lake Superior, which was a great ending to our adventures, since we had also been in Lake Winnipeg and even the Hudson Bay in the same trip. On the final day, we would make the trek home. We learned a lot of things over the course of this journey about polar bears, beluga whales, our own luck in regards to not seeing the northern lights. We learned that sometimes restaurants quickly turn into bars, and it's no longer comfortable to have a baby in them. We learned that driving too fast in Manitoba will get you an expensive speeding ticket that you can later appeal in an online hearing. We learned that although Canada has towns not connected by road, the U.S. mainland has only one, perhaps the destination of a subsequent journey. If you're wondering, that town is named Supai and is at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And Supai is the only American equivalent, at least on the mainland, of a town that doesn't connect to the rest of the system by road. Of course, we do have them in Hawaii and Alaska, but only Supai on the mainland. But Canada has more of them, and Churchill is one of those unconnected communities, only connected by rail, and is a wonderful experience that I'd recommend. There's no other ecosystem quite like it. And with that, I'll thank you for watching this video and encourage you to subscribe to CapTech.